Thanks to our sponsor Durkin Tactical, your AR-15 superstore. You can find out more at durkintactical.com. Thanks again to Winchester for providing the ammo used in this video. New to 2022 is the Winchester 30-round clip pack, featuring 30 rounds of M855 preloaded onto stripper clips with a loading spoon included for your convenience. It makes loading 5.56 magazines fast and easy. You can find out more at winchester.com.
Hello friends, thanks for watching another ARFCOM video. I'm here with Bear, deep inside a secret bunker in Oklahoma. We're going to talk about kits and whether we should buy or build, or if I am going to build a kit, like what I should. Let's start with, I hate your guts.
Yep.
I don't like Refuge Medical.
You and
I want to build my own.
Yep.
Or maybe you're out of stock of the thing that I need, or whatever. For whatever reason, I want to build my own kit. What should I put in my kit?
Cool. So first thing, distinguish between boo-boo kit and trauma kit. Boo-boo kit's easy. You need some Neosporin, some Band-Aids, some tape,
minor wounds,
small gauze.
Well, not minor wounds, but not immediately life-threatening.
Non-life-threatening injuries. Boo-boo kit. All right. If you're a hiker, maybe some moleskin, maybe some duct tape. It's, minor stuff, right? And that's super simple. A trip to the dollar store, Walmart, you can get that put together.
What do you use the duct tape for? Reattaching a finger?
You can do that. It also, you can apply pressure with it. You can, if you have to make non-vented chest seals, you can do that with a piece of plastic. You can make a tiny little Band-Aid with it. If you have a hot spot on your foot because you're rucking because it's the end of the world and I never carry my rucksack unless somebody's trying to eat me alive because they're a zombie, you can put some duct tape on that hot spot, especially around the heel. That seems to be an issue for people because I think they're going to bug out with their brand new boots on.
My hot spot's usually on the ball of my feet.
Right. More lube.
Yeah.
What are you doing, step bro?
Oh, you on your foot.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know you were a lefty. Switch hitting. So, and then you got your.
You can do it.
You can do it.
Okay. All right, so you've got your boo-boo kit, and then you've got a trauma kit. And the difference between boo-boo kit is non-life-threatening, trauma kit is life-threatening. And so we talked in the previous video about the difference between the ABCs and March, right? And so in vogue right now is March, has been for the last couple of decades.
And in case anybody hadn't watched the previous video, long ago when dirt was new and when I received what little medical training I have, we focused on ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. But we know a lot more because of the GWAT, because of decades of endless war in the Middle East. We've seen lots and lots of holes poked in people, and we have a mountain of empirical data about how to save lives.
And that's where March comes from. TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. And so ABCs is airway, breathing, circulation, like you said. March is massive bleeding, then airway, then respiratory, circulation, head injury / hypothermia, then everything else, which for us is an onus to recheck the casualty for secondary wounds that we might have missed. A lot of times somebody focuses on this huge hole in this person and they patch that up and they're like, he's good to go. And they're actually bleeding from several other places as well. And so the E
especially on the part of the body that's laying against the ground that you see the blood spurting up out of the one side, but while you're treating that, it's cooling underneath.
And a pant leg can easily hide a liter of blood. Easily.
Yeah.
And sometimes two. And that's a big deal. We'll get into that in the later segments. But the point with a trauma kit is it's for a life-threatening injury. All right?
Yes.
And that begins with a critical bleed. And so the cornerstone of a trauma kit is going to be a Committee on TCCC approved tourniquet. A tourniquet. Not an I think it's a tourniquet or somebody told me it's a tourniquet or I can make one with my belt or my grandma showed me how to use a handkerchief. A real one, not a pretend one. And a pressure bandage and some type of gauze for wound packing.
The reason that we want a real tourniquet is because these things have to withstand a significant amount of force. If you want to compress enough tissue to stop a bleed, it has to be strong. And a lot of the fake tourniquets were breaking at the windlass.
Yep.
And you were telling me, I think was it this strap that was breaking? That's where most of the strain is on these things, right?
Correct. The inner band on a legit Gen 7 cat tourniquet, this is a trainer by the way, but there's no difference between this and an actual cat tourniquet other than the color. Okay, that's all blue for trainer tourniquet. This inner band is Kevlar, not nylon. Well, the cheap knockoffs, they have a lower quality plastic here and then nylon in here, not Kevlar. Nylon just can't hold up, and you can literally take, I do it all the time, take a fake one and just snap the windlass in half. No good.
That's not inspiring.
No, and so that's why you want a real tourniquet, because this has been used 19,000 times during GWAT. There's a little bit of market research on this.
Right.
Just a little bit. And I know you can use Grandpa's hanky and a stick and make one, but if your plan is to improvise, you're planning to fail.
Yeah.
You've got 90 seconds of uncontrolled bleeding before you lose consciousness. After you lose consciousness, what's the likelihood of you rendering self-aid?
0.
0. In other words, you're dead. So a trauma kit starts with a committee on TCCC approved tourniquet, whether it's a CAT Gen 7 or a SAM XT or a Soft T.
Would it be fair to say that the absolute bare minimum trauma kit is itself a tourniquet?
At a bare minimum, you need a tourniquet. The problem with only carrying a tourniquet...
You should have other things, but
for sure.
That's the starting point.
Tourniquets work in your extremities. They don't work in junctional areas.
You can't tourniquet the taint.
So that's going to be your shoulders, your neck, your pelvic girdle, your ass. And that's why I would say, if you're going to carry a gun, you need to carry a tourniquet, for sure. But at a minimum for the M in March, which is massive bleeding, you need a tourniquet, you need a pressure bandage, and some type of packing gauze. Whether that's a hemostatic gauze like Quick Clot, combat gauze, C-Locks, whatever, or just regular compressed gauze, and people go back and forth between compressed gauze and hemostatics and efficacy. 75th Ranger Regiment did a study on that in 2019, I believe it was, and they found no appreciable difference between hemostatic and compressed gauze. And the reason for that is not that the gauze is soaking up all the blood to form a clot, it's that the gauze is applying pressure to the bleeding vessel inside of the wound, and so when you pack that gauze in there, you're compressing the bleeding vessel inside of there, and when you pull that gauze back out, it's only the first 6 inches or a foot of gauze that has blood on it. And so there's no appreciable difference between a hemostatic and a compressed gauze, comma, hemos are nice to have because if we have like a pelvic girdle injury or something where we can't get good pressure up inside of that wound, we are gonna want the clotting factor of the hemostatic gauze. But all that to say, at a minimum, tourniquet, pressure bandage, some type of gauze for wound packing for dealing with massive bleeding.
So, as an example of a pressure bandage, like an Israeli bandage or other similar. So the three things that for a bare minimum trauma kit would be a tourniquet, a pressure bandage, and gauze.
Correct.
Okay, so I have a little bit more money, or I have a little bit more space to store this in, and I want to add a few more life-saving things to my kit that I'm putting together because I hate Refuge Medical and I don't want to buy them. Even though they've done all the work for me and figured this stuff out and what needs to be there and packed it in an extremely efficient manner, I still hate you and I'm going to build my own thing. So what would you say is like the next few things that you should add to like a sort of intermediate kit?
Okay, so M is massive bleeding, right? AR, airway and respiratory. Statistically, massive bleeding is going to deal with 9 out of 10 of our problems, statistically speaking. As far as preventable deaths in the United States are concerned, 9 out of 10 is massive bleeding. The next statistic...
And a lot of airway treatment doesn't require equipment.
Correct. A lot of that can just be chin thrust, recovery position, maintaining a patent airway is important. And so when you look at airway and respiratory, those two things are actually pretty easy to acquire and pretty easy. You need training. Don't get me wrong. You need training, but you don't have to be like super high speed to know how to apply a chest seal or put a naso in. Exactly. And so nasal pharyngeal airway, AKA NPA, and we highly recommend nasos over oral pharyngeal airways because a naso can be used on a conscious or unconscious patient. An oral pharyngeal airway, AKA a J tube, like a hard plastic J-shaped tube, those can only be used on unconscious patients because they induce the gag reflex. Insert joke here.
Oh, that's nasty.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but one size of NPA will fit a lot more patients than a J-tube.
Correct. Typically, J-tubes come in a 4 or 6 piece kit, depending on the size of the patients. Size 28 French is about the standard size for 90+%, the 90th percentile of people out there running around. And you can get a size, I believe it's a size 20 for children is about the right size, but check me on that because I don't remember off the top of my head. But size 28 French is for an adult male is just about right. And there's ways that you can measure those. It's beyond the scope of this video. But we actually teach that at refugetraining.com. So an airway, good to go. It's for maintaining a patent airway, which means we want air, oxygen going in and out of the body. And then the chest seal's like super simple. If there's a hole in what we call the box, the pleural space in between the neck and the navel, 360 degrees around, we're gonna deal with that hole by putting an occlusive dressing over it, AKA a chest seal. And so getting back to your question of should I build one or should I buy one? If you're buying a kit from a reputable dealer, us or anybody else, the problem solving as to what I need in a kit has already been done for you.
Yeah.
Versus if you're gonna build your own, and it's totally legitimate to build your own as long as you use quality components, because you may be on a budget where you need to piecemeal it. This week I'm gonna get a tourniquet. Next pay period I'm gonna get some quick clot. The period after that I'm gonna get a couple packs of chest seals. Yada,
Or
yada,
maybe
yada.
you used a few of the things and you need to replace them.
That's exactly right. Happens all the time. So it's totally okay to piecemeal a kit. You just want to use good components and understand the ideology and the methodology to use these components.
So how would you understand that? Where would you get that knowledge to know what you need? Because having this stuff doesn't do anything. I mean, this doesn't help me at all if I don't know how to properly wear one of these things, you know?
It looks great on you. And yeah, that's a good way
So
to do it.
where would you get the sort of knowledge that you need to understand what needs to go into a tourniquet?
So,
What needs to go? Let me try that.
pretty good.
What needs to go into a tourniquet?
Yeah.
A limb. A limb needs to go into a tourniquet. Where would you get the knowledge that you need to assemble a kit yourself?
So thank you for lobbing that softball at me. Refugetraining.com. Refugetraining.com. We thought that it was irresponsible of us to sell these trauma kits and not have a way to teach people how to use them. We don't do online training. And let me tell you why we don't do online training.
You can't tell if I screw up.
That's exactly right. People misunderstand information for instruction.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't take online shooting classes, right? Because the instructor can't watch your trigger press.
No. I'm going to stop you right there, homie. I am more or less Force Recon Delta Sniper because I watch Garand Thumb.
Oh,
so
yeah. That's true. I forgot about
all
that.
I need to do, right?
So you're part of the multicam mafia, is that what you're saying? There's us, and then there's lots of other trainers as well. And taking nothing away from these other trainers that are out there, make sure that if you're going to go to a tactical medicine class or at a minimum a stop the bleed, that they're conforming to the Committee on TCCC's guidelines. And then there's another, we are also NAEMT compliant for 2022. So we update our curriculum every year, College of Surgeons, so forth and so on. So we're constantly updating our curriculum because there's a lot of old and therefore bad information that's out there.
Yeah.
So, but find a reputable instructor wherever you are and go take a class. So we have this concept is like, who cares about GWAT? I don't wear a plate carrier for a living.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but do you drive? Statistically, most dangerous thing you do in the United States of America is drive. Statistically, 9 out of 10 preventable deaths are massive bleeding. Bad stuff happens all the time. Chainsaw injuries on the homestead, tractors. We had one dude almost got his arm ripped off with a skid steer that saved his life with one of these kits in a construction accident. So stuff happens.
I've carried a gun since I was 21, and I've been down range. I've, by the grace of God, never had to discharge my weapon at a human being. But I have had to help someone who was very likely not going to make it had I not been there. The motor vehicle collision, just because, you know what, if you've gotten to the age of like 30 or 40 or so and you have not been the first person to arrive at a serious motor vehicle collision, you are a statistical anomaly.
Yeah, agreed.
If I remember correctly, I believe that on average, most of us in America are probably going to be involved in some sort of vehicle collision once every 5 years. So it's virtually guaranteed that you'll have an opportunity to use something like this.
half of the lives saved with this kit, motor vehicle accidents. Half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to bottom line it, like we were saying, that there's just a ton of bad information floating around out there. Thankfully, I've had the opportunity to at least know that some of the information that's in my head is wrong. If you guys think that you know stuff about emergency medicine, but what you learned is more than 5 or 10 years old, you probably need a training class. So you get your training class, and now you know what to put in the kit. Can we kind of recap and talk about like the most important things to have in the kit that you put together yourself?
For sure. So a quality committee on TCCC approved tourniquet, or I say TCCC approved. They make recommendations. They don't approve, but it has to adhere to those recommendations. There'll be a Gen 7 CAT tourniquet from North American Rescue, a soft T tourniquet from TACMed, or a SAM XT. Now those are, and in that order of preference for me. A pressure bandage of any type. It could be a 4-inch responder, a 6-inch, an Olays, an Israeli dressing, whatever. Some type of pressure bandage, and some type of gauze to wound pack with at a bare minimum. And then build out from there with chest seals and airway. And then you start worrying about everything else. Smaller gauze, eye shield, rolled gauze, triangle bandage, burrito blanket, so forth and so on. But I would prioritize it in that order because statistically you're going to begin by covering the most likely scenarios first in that order. And if you have to piecemeal it, nothing wrong with that, but buy quality components. You do not want to save $10 on a tourniquet and have your wife bleed out because it broke.
Right.
It's not worth it. You didn't save $10, you lost your wife or your daughter or your best friend or your pastor, right? And so don't buy cheap crap. It's not going to work when you need it to work, and you only get one shot at it. If it doesn't work, you don't get a do-over. So super important for that. Just spend real money on real products. Don't buy the cheap stuff.
Outstanding. If I want to know more, where do I go?
RefugeMedical.com for the kits, RefugeTraining.com for the training. Any questions you have, you can email to sales@RefugeMedical.com, and we'll take care of you. Appreciate y'all.
Outstanding. Bear, thank you. I love
brother.
you.
Love you
I
back.
love you guys. Shit.
Bye.
Bye.